Thank you very much, Trevor Mbija at the Nation Center. Yes, we're live from the residence of the Deputy President, William Ruto. Your Excellency, thank you for having us here tonight and for giving us your time. We've seen the politics that's at play right now, and as much as you might be in a position to say that it's not time for politicking, we'll be addressing that in a moment. I'll first start with what's top in the minds of Kenyans, what's affecting their daily lives, and that is the issue of corruption. Now, I'll start and refer to what has been the latest index on corruption. This is by Transparency International, and that has placed Kenya at a meager 143 out of 180 countries in the latest corruption index. Now, this, of course, is a very poor ranking and a grading that you would say has shown that the Jubilee government is a failure in the fight against corruption. As the Deputy President, how does this make you feel, and are you ready to take responsibility for the poor state of a country that's now described as corrupt?
Well, first, Mark, you're welcome to the residence of the Deputy President with your team. And thank you for finding time and giving me an opportunity to speak to your viewers and to Kenyans wherever they are. And to tell you that as Deputy President, I wouldn't run away from responsibility on the management of the affairs of Kenya, because the President and I were elected, and we are the people who ultimately the buck stops with.
All right, so let's run to it, straight to it. What is your feeling on
matters corruption?
Yes.
We have been absolutely clear. The President and I, we have consistently said that we will do our portion. We will do our part. We have, in the last 5 years, doubled the resources available to all the agencies that are charged with the fight against corruption. We have added additional men, additional investigators.
Let me take you on that issue of the resources, if you may allow me to. The resources that you are placing to the agencies charged with fighting graft, and from the figures that have been given and the latest allocations given even in the speech, the budget speech not too long ago, the amount that has been given or allocated to these agencies is actually reduced. And this is from 73.7 billion to 70 billion. And just to name a few, Parliament gets 36 billion shillings, Judiciary a little over 15.2 billion shillings, EACC 2.9 billion shillings, DPP office 2.9, and this of course is one of those few offices that have had 2.3 billion shillings in the past, basically showing that you have not necessarily increased entirely. And you've given more priority to what you're now calling the big four projects and the big four pillars for your Jubilee leadership. Is this misplaced priorities?
Compared to any other government, we have added 100 additional investigators to the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission. We have bolstered staff at the Office of Director of Public Prosecution. Those are numbers you cannot dispute.
This is true.
And we have, more than any other government, we have consistently ensured that these offices have the men, have the equipment, they have the software to be able to deliver on the fight against corruption. And every step that has been taken by these independent institutions, the executive has been ready, willing, and available to move with the investigative authorities. Any officer of government that has been found corrupt, we as a government have offered no protection for nobody, and every officer must account for their actions. So we have, when Kenya Anti-Corruption brought to us 174 officers in 2016. All the officers were asked to step aside. Unfortunately,
Yes.
the whole thing came to a cropper because these were mere allegations. And unfortunately, we were told then that they have foolproof cases.
With your,
When
increased resources, as you speak of in your establishment and in your ministry, I mean, in your Jubilee leadership, if indeed you've increased the resources to fight the graft, then why is it that seems to be there is more increase in the issue of graft? I mean, you've seen the headlines. You know what's happening, whether it's NYS, whether it's the May scandal, whether it's electricity with inflated bills, whether it's even this issue of sugar and even Kenya pipeline. It doesn't quite add up. It doesn't quite add up, Mr. Deputy President, when you say you've increased officers. It seems as if we're doing the same thing, but with this and expecting different results. And we are not going anywhere. We're just having more numbers of money that is being lost. Kenyans' money that is going to graft.
Mark, it depends on where you stand. We have a constitution that provides for what the executive can do and what other independent institutions can do. We have delivered on our part. The DPP's office, which is an independent office, will deliver on its part. The IG and the investigating authorities must deliver on their part.
If you have delivered on your part, to be honest, in terms of people and where they stand, to the Kenyan that you were talking to tonight, if it indeed is about delivering on the fight against graft, you would need to see people being brought to book. And not just small fish, as they've been referred to, but people who are at the top. I mean, dare I say, even someone in your caliber as the Deputy President, if indeed you're caught to be involved in corruption within your office and with people that you work with, whether it's ministries that you collaborate with, you should be brought to book. To date, there's none. You talk about people being brought to book or being lined up in court, but there's no proper conclusive prosecutions. That's what makes sense to the Kenyan. See heads rolling.
Mark, are you going to allow me to say anything?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, because I think you've been talking 3/4 of the time.
Yes, but you
have to decide whether you want me to respond or I listen to you.
I would also challenge you on being consistent with what you're saying. It reads well.
Allow me to say something.
You sound good in terms of the resources that you're giving towards this fight, but it doesn't go hand in hand with the results that we have.
Will you give me a moment to respond?
Go ahead.
So, as I told you, Mark, we have done our bit. The question that should go to the DPP, to the investigating authorities, and to the judiciary is, why are we not getting prosecutions? Why are we not getting convictions? It is not the president and the deputy president that will give you a conviction.
So in your view, the judiciary is lagging?
It is the judiciary that must deliver the convictions.
Are you saying it's lagging in its mandate, the judiciary?
I think that's a question you need to ask the DPP. I do not speak for the DPP. I do not speak for the judiciary. As for what we in the executive are expected to do, we have done the best that any government would have done. But let me say the following, Mark. You know, sometimes we glorify theft and we call it corruption, we color it, we make it a big issue.
But isn't
And let me tell you,
yes,
the biggest threat to Kenya is not necessarily corruption. The biggest threat to Kenya, and I want to say this for the public to know, is actually leadership that has no vision, that is incompetent, that has no plan.
Someone might say you're describing the Jubilee leadership.
That is the biggest threat to our country. Why do I say that? I mean, we have built the standard gauge railway, which we have talked about for 30 years. We have connected 7 million Kenyans to date
All right.
Only 2 million were collected in 50 years.
You're talking about the electricity
We have
connectivity.
now 92 referral hospitals in Kenya.
As you
we
give
had
these
only
good,
2 when
as
we
you
took
give
over.
these good
The
figures.
question I want to ask you,
Right.
Mark,
Yes.
is did corruption stop the construction of a standard gauge railway? No. Did corruption
But someone
stop
might argue that
connecting
corruption
electricity
is
to
continuing
Kenyans?
even
No.
in this particular project
Did corruption
that you are running
stop
with as
us
a Jubilee
from
as your
having
pet project?
additional referral facilities in Kenya? No. What stopped us from moving Kenya forward? It is incompetence. It is a leadership that has no vision, that has no plan. And let me tell you,
But
Mark,
who is in leadership?
we are
Who is in leadership?
moving this country forward. Today, Kenya is changing. Today, as I talk to you, we have a working standard gauge railway. We have about
On that point,
7,000 kilometers of road
You've
built
mentioned
in Kenya.
you've mentioned the standard gauge
Today-
railway. Let me just stop you on that point. And it's
So,
not
Mark,
necessarily.
so the reality,
it's picking on this point
and
of
let me-
what you brought up
let
as
me,
something that is a success. And clearly,
me
with
tell
one
you
of the reports, and I'm sure you've seen this,
that,
Deputy President, if you may allow me, if you
I'm
would
going-
allow me, the
I'm going to
SGR,
tell you-
which you have praised,
I'm going to
you
tell you,
praised
I'm going to tell
yourself
you, Mark,
with,
on this matter.
right?
Let us give Caesar what is due to Caesar. Today, Kenya has moved steps. Yesterday, I was in Mombasa, connecting electricity to Mrs. Mapenzi Kumba, being the 6,700,000 and something connections that we have done. What I am telling you is sometimes we drive the country in the wrong direction. We focus in the wrong things. I am telling you, this country is going to be changed by visionary, focused leadership. And that is what Jubilee is offering. And let me also tell you about the SGR you're talking about. Ask me about the SGR, I will respond.
Right. I mean, there's a report right now that the daily runnings of the SGR are not as glamorous as are made out to be. First is the issue of racism and discrimination, but besides that, there is a mounting cost in its maintenance and its running on a daily basis. On one hand, you'd want to present this as a good logistical breakthrough for the nation, and perhaps many Kenyans have used it and have enjoyed it. I'm yet to do so.
Which it is, Mark.
I'm yet to do so. But if indeed it is, and it is eating into the resource and the taxpayers' money, would you deny the fact that in its daily running and its costs, it mounts up to some reports, as you've seen in the papers today, that it's gone up to $1 billion a month?
That's correct.
Right.
It costs $1 billion a month to run the SGR. The SGR, my friend, is not a matatu. The SGR is a huge operation. And for the record, let me tell you the following. Today, we have 7 cargo planes every day on the SGR. Mm-hmm. By December this year, we will have 12 trains every day on the SGR carrying cargo. And the good news is that by the end of this year, the SGR will have broken even. Less than a year since we started operation.
By breaking even?
In fact, some countries around us who have SGR and started earlier than us are not where we are. They are operating one train a day. We are talking about 7 cargo planes today. By December, there will be 12 cargo planes a day. And the good news is that by the time it gets to 2020, when we will begin to pay the loan on the SGR, it will not be from the Kenyan exchequer. The SGR will pay for itself. In fact, if there is one decision that the Jubilee administration made that was correct and sound, it is the SGR, the investment in the SGR.
Right.
And we are very proud of it, and it is taking this country places.
So you're talking about the figures as 1 billion per month as being allowed, and so it's okay. And you're saying we haven't broken even, but we will definitely soon. What about the daily runnings of the same and how it is meted out on the Kenyans who are there?
I am telling you, Mark, that the SGR, by the end of this year, will pay for itself, first, as a matter of operation. Going forward, by 2020, and we will be here, all of us, by 2020, we will not have to go back when we start paying for the loan, the 320 billion that we used to build the SGR. We will not go to the Kenyan coffers to get money to pay for the SGR. The SGR will pay for itself.
All right.
It couldn't have been a better investment. There is no business, my friend, where you start and within a year you are broken even.
All right.
Some businesses take longer.
Okay. You've spoken of the SGR. Let me move from that. And now the electrification project that you also speak very well of in terms of the connectivity.
Correct.
And yes, we would need the nation to be connected
Correct.
to the grid. No one would dispute that.
Correct.
But even as that happens, then there's the issue of inflated bills that has come up in the recent months. So how do you explain that? On one hand, you're giving enough connectivity, but then on the other, there's inflated bills.
The story of the inflated bills was explained by the minister responsible. There were issues initially of drought. There were issues initially of the connection between the various parts of the country. We couldn't access Mombasa because of the problems of the transmission lines, and therefore we were using more diesel, and because we were using more diesel, then we ended up with higher bills. The minister has explained. We have issues that are being raised about transformers. Those are issues that are being investigated. These are issues that are being dealt with on a daily basis. But let me tell you, Mark, when you listen about NYS and Kenya Pipeline and the sugar scandal and many of those things, if you look at it, we have implemented the SGR scandal-free. We have connected electricity in this country scandal-free. We have rolled out our equipment for our facilities, referral hospitals, scandal-free. We have driven NHIF for the last 5 years. We have grown the numbers from 3.8 million to now 7 million. Our target is now to move it under our new arrangement to 13 million by 2022. These are numbers that are transforming the country. And these are reality you cannot run away from. So we have driven our whole program of expanding our road network by 7,000 kilometers scandal-free.
Yes.
So when there are issues, if you look at the percentage of what there are issues about, they do not form 5 or 10% of what we have done. And if you were to mark the exam, Mark,
yes,
today, if we have problems with 5 or 10% of what we have done, it means we have gotten 90% right. Have we passed the exam? Have we not?
But this seems like you are either burying your head in the sand.
I will never do anything like that, Mark.
Because you pointed out when you talk about NYS, when you talk about the sugar, when you talk about the maize, when you talk about Kenya Pipeline, as if put that on the side, look at what we think we are doing better. Don't you think there are failures on this part of NYS?
I am not disputing that there are failures in government. I just want you to be fair.
And even in the running of NYS.
I just want you to be fair and say, well, you have failures in 10% of what you're doing. But don't make it look like I saw an editorial in one of your newspapers, and it said, a whole editorial, the only thing Jubilee government has done in the last 5 years is to steal money in NYS, to steal the Eurobond, and to steal something in Ministry of Health. How unfair can that be?
Right.
That's not true.
All right. But first of all, I mean, this is what you had to say. First of all, let's retrack and go back to the first season, what people are calling NYS Season 1. And this is one of the things that you had to say on what was going on then, before we even get to the figures that are being investigated now. Let's listen in.
But surely, if a hairdresser registers 20 companies, gets contracts, is paid millions. The millions, admittedly, she says she carried millions in bags and sacks like potatoes. And then you want to tell us stories. Oh, you know, this is, please give us a break. Kiingereza mingi, mnafanyia catwalk hapa around. Na ni wazi pesa ya umma imepotea. Mwenye hiyo pesa anasema aliweka kwa gunia. Sasa jameni, kweli dunia hii, we must be honest with ourselves. That we must be honest with ourselves, and we will call a spade a spade.
The 791 million shilling NYS scandal, and you spoke very strongly against what was going on then. What do you say about what is happening now? With the first phase, it's being investigated for 400 million shillings. And what does it say of your government being a pet project of your government? And now you're talking about the big four pillars without having, first of all, dealt with those issues and the loopholes in this NYS project.
That shows you, what I said in that clip shows you the kind of anger with which this government takes when public money gets lost. And we did take steps. People were taken to court. Unfortunately, some of those cases are still hanging in court. The people who, again, and for your information, even these 400 million that is currently
under investigation.
Under investigation.
Right.
It is a percentage of 20 billion. That is the kind of money we are spending. And I'm not saying 400 million is little by any measure.
And this is just the first phase of what would be
but I'm
a big
saying,
figure.
even then, we have been bold enough to say, even though we are doing a fine job, and many young people have benefited from the NYS, and much has been achieved by the NYS, but there are still areas where public resources is not being spent well. And that is what we have done. We have said any public officer, without necessarily introducing or judging anybody, must face the full force of the law. And that is what we have done.
Yes.
Even with the officers that are there in office today, we are taking them to court, and we are allowing due process to continue.
If you're dealing with it with that rage that you described earlier, then why did this recur?
Let me tell you, Mark, I have told you, if it was for the president or myself to decide who is guilty and who is not, maybe you would ask me fairly that decision. But we run a country not of men, but a country of law. So when somebody is charged, they have to be taken through due process.
Right.
And due process has its own mechanisms. It is not for the executive to decide. It is for, ultimately, the judiciary to decide as to the guilt or otherwise of anybody. So this is a conversation that we must have as a nation.
Would you say the due process that you point out is delivering anything tangible?
It will deliver. It may take long. It may take time. But I am confident that finally, due process, the rule of law, will never fail. The rule of law finally will catch up with those who pilfer public resources.
All right. And you have also commented on one of the directives the president has given out in terms of the lifestyle audits. And in fact, this is what you had to say not too long ago, soon after the directive was given out, and saying you'd be perhaps one of the first to take part in it. Let's listen in.
William Ruto will be among the first to submit himself for that exercise. I can see the media already have done some work on me. I did expect that they would do, the next day it will be somebody else, but it looked like it stopped at me only.
And this sounds good that the second in command would be willing to undergo this lifestyle audit, but it is also curious as to how you've reached to where you are. You've styled yourself as a hustler number one, and you've built your wealth over the years. But someone would question, you have amassed a lot of wealth, and it's not necessarily just from the salary that is public knowledge that is out there, but from other means. You will tell us how, of course, you've made your money, but in the name of a lifestyle audit, would you tell us how much you are worth?
First, let me tell you, Mark, if you want to know the size of my bank account or what I own, that is a conversation we can have. Yeah?
And I'm sure you're willing to have it right now, as talk about it as a rehearsal. What's your source of your health, of your wealth?
How is that important to you?
Because many ask
So
the means
would
as to
you,
which
would you want us
arrive
to
to where you
discuss
are.
about how much you're worth?
Wouldn't this be part of lifestyle audit? Or nowhere close to where you are, sir.
How
wouldn't
do you
this,
know
wouldn't
that?
this be part of a lifestyle audit?
Correct.
What would be a lifestyle audit?
So I have said,
yes.
the way the president said that he will lead, and I have said I will be among the first to follow, right? When the lifestyle audit comes, Mark Masai, William Ruto will be on the queue, right? And I will be too happy to make what I own public. That would be a good moment for me, because a lot of stories, including what you've just said, oh, William Ruto has amassed a lot of wealth. You know, in that chain of things that people claim I own is this house, the one behind us here. For your information, this house is a public house. I don't own this house.
There's been pictures and talk of a house in Sugoi.
It is listed as one of the properties that I own.
Yes.
And many other things.
What about
I
the one
own
in Sugoi?
apparently 680 Hotel and Boulevard, and I don't know which other hotel.
Western Hotel.
And I don't know which building, and I don't know how many choppers, and I don't know how many planes, and many of the rumor mill has rolled out. So, and of course, when I asked about the lifestyle audit, for your information, the only politician where a newspaper has gone on the headline to attempt and pretend to say what I own, I'm the only one. And it has been made to look like the whole of the lifestyle audit was about William Ruto. I expected the newspaper the next day to say, okay, we have said maybe this is what William Ruto owns. I expected the next day to be somebody else, and maybe the third day Mark Masai, and maybe the fourth day somebody else. But it stopped with me. I don't mind. I have been in the eye of the storm many times, and I don't mind. But when that process begins, I'll be too happy to make what I own public.
And you've mentioned, I mean, what has been in the headlines, and you've been at the center of the focus.
Don't you ask yourself,
and you've said
why amongst all the politicians in Kenya,
Yes.
the thousands of politicians, why is it William Ruto always on the line?
Well, perhaps he's amassed quite some amount of money that people would want to know how he got to that, given what is public knowledge as his source of income.
Can you
why would it be hard if indeed
Can
it
you
is...
truthfully, Masai,
Yes.
can you truthfully say William Ruto is a rich man in this Kenya? Richer than the people that we all know?
Oh, but I would.
How so?
Would you say you're a poor man, sir?
I would not say I'm a poor man.
You're a wealthy man.
I would not say that I am a poor man, but I wouldn't say that I would be in the class of people that Kenyans can want to be interested in what they own. There are people who own things in this country. I'm not in that class.
All right. When you say, to mark your words that you'll be first in line, you haven't quite told us any or given us any leads of the source of your wealth. But you say you're a hustler, so we'll wait for that process to begin. You say you'd be the first in line to do this. But do you think this lifestyle audit then will be any way beneficial in helping us know how public servants or how much they're worth?
Definitely.
Yes.
Because then it will put an end to rumors. It will help people like me, who I have been accused of owning this and owning that and owning that unfairly, merely because people are trying to drive a narrative. In fact, something interesting happened on Friday. I was in Kakamega. And one person who spoke said something profound. And he said it in Kiswahili. He said, mtoto wa maskini akipata ameiba, lakini mtoto wa tajiri akiiba ni kwa sababu ni ya baba yake. That is a very profound.
Kwa hivyo mtoto wa maskini ambaye anaitwa Ruto ameipata. Umekubali, you're wealthy.
I said what a statement that was being said,
which you were saying was referred to you.
I just found that profound.
All right, but I mean, you're bringing it into this conversation, and
maybe it's not profound to you, but I think it's profound.
All right, let's move on a bit to this other issue that you were addressing today, and this was on the issue of whether you have a debt to pay a certain region, or whether you expect anything paid back to you come 2022. And this is what you said at All Saints Cathedral earlier today.
Okay.
No person, no community, no section of Kenya owes anybody, including myself, anything. Community, no section of Kenya.
You basically, and you were there, I mean,
yes.
You know what you were saying. What was this in reference to?
When Uhuru Kenyatta, the president of Kenya today, and I sat down in 2012, and we discussed about politics then, we were very clear that we wanted to achieve two things. Politics then was ethnic, really, really negatively ethnic. And we wanted to change that.
It isn't now?
We have substantially done some work on it. We are well on the way changing the politics of our country. Okay. Secondly, we also wanted to bring a stop to the animosity that had become part of the politics of Kenya. And we have achieved both things.
Would you say the handshake has achieved this?
Today,
would you say
the handshake is part of it. The base,
and you would laud the move.
Foundation, the
yes.
foundation we built in 2012. And then, Mark, Uhuru Kenyatta was told, how can you work with William Ruto? I was told, how can you work with Uhuru Kenyatta? But we did. And in fact, when we sat down, it was not about winning the election, for your information. There are many people who are confusing this. It was not about winning the election.
What
it
else
was
was
about having peace in Kenya and making communities that hadn't worked together for years, and a lot of animosity has been built to work together.
Coincidentally gave you the top leadership.
By God's grace, we won the election. But we had achieved the primary thing, to make sure that politics was peaceful.
Right.
And politics was less ethnic.
Who was this directed to today? What you were saying today? Is it the voices of people talking about you losing some favor or support in certain regions?
When I spoke today, I was basically retracing that step. You know, there are newcomers into the scene who think that when we sat down with Uhuru Kenyatta, I told him that I'm going to support you for 10 years and then you will support me for 10 years. That was never the discussion, my friend.
You never at once, in any one of your campaigns, did you say that you'll be in power for 20 years as Jubilee? Are you saying that's not the case,
Just relax. Listen to me. When we sat down with Uhuru Kenyatta, it was never about me supporting Uhuru Kenyatta so that he can support me. It was never. Let me tell you, Mark, I supported Uhuru Kenyatta not because he came from Central Kenya. I supported Uhuru Kenyatta because I knew him and I knew his capacity to lead. And when the time comes, right, for me to run, if Jubilee nominates me, I am not going to run on the basis that because I supported Uhuru Kenyatta, anybody should support me. No.
So if
I want to be judged.
If Jubilee does not support you for 2022?
If Jubilee does not support me, I will support whoever Jubilee supports.
But you are also running for the top seat, aren't you? So if they don't support you, what happens?
I will be seeking the Jubilee ticket. If somebody else gets it, I will support whoever gets that ticket. And I have heard somebody in your commentator say, oh, William Ruto is automatically the candidate. That is not correct. Jubilee as a party, through its processes, will nominate a candidate in 2022. And let me also tell you the following, that when we sat down with Uhuru Kenyatta, there was no discussion about him supporting me in 2022. The discussion was, I made up a decision that I was going to support Uhuru Kenyatta because
out of the goodness of your heart.
I knew that he is a good leader, and I knew that we must put this thing of Rift Valley and Central Province going to war every 5 years.
Yeah.
We managed to put that
yes.
on hold.
Yes.
Today, and we decided, Uhuru Kenyatta and I, that we are going to build a political party.
Yes.
That is going to be a political party that will reach every part of Kenya. We have achieved both. We have a peaceful election, and today we have a serious political party. That today, we have today 216 members of parliament. It has never happened.
You say you have a serious...
We have a national party.
Yes.
Today that cuts across the country.
Yes.
And if you look at the events of the last few days, there are more people. People are beginning
and it's good that
to
you
see
brought that
Jubilee
up,
for what we thought it should be.
And people,
a national party
yes.
that can carry people from every
if you may allow me,
and every
if you may allow me, it is good that you say you have a strong, serious party.
Correct.
And things have been happening in the last few days that people are seeing it's a national party, but people are also seeing serious cracks and disunity or division within the party. A week, 2 weeks actually, before you were with the president, I believe you could confirm this, to talk about the state of affairs within the Jubilee party.
Correct.
There was
a
parliamentary,
yes, it was last week.
Yes, and there was a parliamentary group meeting that was meant to be held, but there's a lot of division where you decided not to continue with it. You're now going to a retreat. Is everything good at the Jubilee party?
Let me tell you, Mark. First, there is something that is very important that I must say. That the reason why I made this statement is for people who have misunderstood Jubilee. There are people who think that the only business of Jubilee is to win election. And therefore, this community has a debt to William Ruto. I wanted to set the record clear. Nobody, no community, not even Uhuru Kenyatta, has a debt to pay to William Ruto.
But it is your expectation.
I am happy.
It is your expectation.
I am happy that I supported Uhuru Kenyatta.
It is your expectation that you get the support.
With what we have achieved.
Yes.
With Uhuru Kenyatta as president and as our leader. What in 2022, I will present myself. If Jubilee gives me, or I'm elected the Jubilee ticket candidate, I will run as a Jubilee member. Uhuru Kenyatta being the party leader of Jubilee, I am sure, I am confident, I can put it in writing that Uhuru Kenyatta will support whoever Jubilee nominates in 2022.
You would expect it to be
if that will be William Ruto, I will want to present myself as a candidate, and I will want to be judged by what my track record. People have seen me when I was Minister for Agriculture. What did I do? People have seen me when I was Minister for Higher Education. What did I do? People have seen me today as Deputy President. What have I done? That is the record I would want to be judged by. And that is the reason, that is the reason, Mark, just allow me 1 minute. That is the reason why, as Deputy President today, I work hard.
Okay.
I go places.
That is not in dispute, and that's
I
another
work
thing.
hard
Aren't you on campaign mode? You just spoke. I'm just writing on
count.
what you've just said, sir. If you will allow
Okay.
me, you are going in visiting different parts of the country in the name of development projects, and this has been seen by many as the campaign mode already. Are you campaigning now? And of course, you've seen the various visits at the coastal region, a place that is regarded a stronghold for the opposition leader, Raila Odinga. Are you trying to make inroads in a region that is seen to be more in favor to the opposition?
Two things. What I am doing today, Mark, is what I've always done as deputy president from 2013. If you count the number of visits I paid to the coast in 2013, they are as numerous as the ones that I am doing today.
So is it campaign or is it not campaign?
Nothing has changed.
Is it a campaign or is it not a campaign?
Nothing has changed.
Is it a campaign or not, sir?
Let me tell you. Do you know the job description of deputy president?
You tell me, you're in that seat.
That if you want to know the job description of deputy president, it is what I do.
But some are saying that is kutangatanga. In fact, let's listen. No, let's listen to that. Let's listen to what has been termed as kutangatanga around the country, and you had a response to this.
Hii kijana anaitwa Ruto, unajua kila weekend anatangatanga kila pahali. Atakuwa anapitia hizi machorochoro. Akiona kuna kitu inaenda kona mumwambie. Si namna hiyo? Si namna hiyo? Tuhakikishe kazi ya wananchi imefanyika. Tumekubaliana?
Mimi nimechaguliwa kama naibu wa rais, na kazi ya naibu wa rais ndio hii mimi nafanya. Mimi si mpishi, mimi si watchman, mimi siuzi makaa, mimi siuzi nyama. Mimi ni mtu wa kupanga mambo ya maendeleo ya Kenya nikishirikiana na rais. Wewe kama uko na kazi yako, wewe fanya hiyo yako.
I mean, if your boss, the president, is saying anatangatanga, isn't that, an indictment of sorts to your forays in different parts of the country?
Do you sincerely believe in that, Mark?
Oh, the connotation of tangatanga, you're probably a Swahili is better than mine, sir. But that is the connotation of tangatanga, sir. And that's why I would allude to this.
My boss, the president of Kenya, is thoroughly clear. You do not need any interpretation on what he said. He said, this William Ruto, because he knows this is what I have done for the last 5 years. He goes to every corner of Kenya, and that is what I do. And what does he say? He says, so that we can make sure that matters of wananchi are attended to. And that is what I do. For your information,
in fact, he said mumukumbushe. So it
absolutely.
Seems, yes,
just
mumukumbushe.
Tell him.
Mumukumbushe. So
tell
it seems,
that there is,
it seems, I mean, from what he says, anatangatanga lakini mumukumbushe kazi yake.
That is your interpretation now, Mark. Unfortunately,
all right,
you're wrong.
Let me get to something.
You're damn wrong.
I'm damn wrong, you say.
Yeah.
All right. Let me get to something that is also in your keen eye right now, and I tried to get to it earlier, but you didn't quite talk about it. And this is the handshake of March 9th. Give us the backstory of this. Where was DP Ruto when this handshake was taking place, and why didn't we see you there?
Just to conclude on what my boss said, for your information, you're damn wrong. The boss is very clear. Uhuru Kenyatta said, this is the man who will come and see whether this road is being constructed. And for your information, I was, for example, in Tharaka Nithi. And because there was a road from Kiritiri to Siakago, which we had given money for it to be built, and the contractor was not doing the job, by being there, I instructed the ministry to cancel that contract, re-advertise the contract so that we can build the road. That is what my boss has asked me to do. And that is the job that I am happy to do. To go to every corner of Kenya and ensure that the Jubilee manifesto, the Jubilee program, our agenda is being rolled out.
And you're saying this is in no way a campaign?
It is not a campaign.
All right, because it's coincidentally
How is
when
it a
you're on.
campaign?
Let me explain, sir. When coincidentally on this,
How does going to open a road?
I'm trying. No. I'm
how
trying
is
to
it a
say
campaign?
this because
How is
it's a
connecting
carrot that's
electricity
being
a
dangled.
campaign?
But this is what I was getting at. When you are in these forums, you give, of course, one or two leaders the opportunity to speak, and of course that is what is carried from the day. In terms of what people are now deciding to do to work with you. So that, to any Kenyan, is definitely a campaign because you pass a message, a political message, as you dangle this carrot of development.
You see, it depends on how you choose to see. First, it is not in my place to control and lecture people on what they want to say or what they don't want to say. That is entirely their responsibility. These are adults. They are not kids. These are people who are grown up. They are intelligent. They are elected leaders. They choose who to associate with, who to work with, for what purpose, right? I mean, any serious leader, if a road is being built in their constituency, will want to be there.
Okay.
Any serious leader, if electricity is being connected or many of the other things that are going on, they will want to be there,
right.
whether they are in the opposition or they are in
not.
government.
Okay.
For your information, I was in Kakamega,
Yes.
and the member of parliament, Naika, is a member of ODM, but we were there with him because this is a road that benefits everybody.
Okay.
And the government we run, Mark, is a government that serves those who voted for us
Yes.
and those who did not vote
And that is
for
why
us.
there's
This
a
is
lot
the
of
government
expectation
Kenya.
from you to make sure that the running of the country is seamless. Now, to that issue,
Handshake,
that
handshake.
yes,
Let's go
yes,
back to the handshake.
yes, to that issue.
For your information,
to that
a
issue,
lot
where
of
were you
story-
when this
A
happened?
lot of story has been peddled around as to what happened, whether William Ruto was aware or whether
Were
he
you?
was not aware.
Were you?
For your information, I work with Uhuru Kenyatta, who is a gentleman. And much as I have sat down with the president and I have told him, Mr. President, you are the leader. Make any decision that is good for Kenya. You don't have to refer to me as your deputy. You don't have to ask me if you think that by asking me it doesn't add any value. And Uhuru Kenyatta, the gentleman, has made many decisions without consulting me. And those decisions I support 100%.
So in this case,
The
if I may,
decision,
with
the
your
decision
point,
for the handshake,
yes,
he asked me. We had a discussion about the handshake. Much as I had the ODM party leader say William Ruto was not in the know, I don't know how he arrived at that, unfortunate for him. But you see, there are decisions that the president can make. It doesn't need I don't supervise the president. The president is ultimately the person responsible.
So just to be
some of the decisions, he consults with me.
okay.
And this is one
consulted.
decision
Yes.
that he consulted me, and he asked me, and I told him, and he just asked me for my thoughts, and I gave him my thoughts.
Which
He
were?
incorporated some of those thoughts. It's not for me to come and give it here.
But it's about the nation because it was a very, very
The positive
key
thing is the
happening in the
handshake
country, yes.
builds on our resolve to unite Kenya. And that is positive, and I support 100%. And for your information, I was among the first leaders to say this is the right thing to do. I still believe that that is the way we should go as a country. So that even though we may be competing as political parties, it doesn't breed the enmity that we were seeing that was being built
Yes.
After the last general election. So this is a positive development.
Right.
And we are looking forward to lowering the political temperatures. It is in the interest of Jubilee so that we can run the government agenda, run our big four, and ensure that we run the transformation agenda for Kenya. It is positive for everybody. There are no losers.
Yes, with that positive response that you give, would this mean that you are ready to work with Raila Odinga?
I have always been ready to work with Raila Odinga. Why wouldn't I work with Raila Odinga? Why wouldn't, in fact, if Uhuru Kenyatta, the person they were competing with, is ready to work with him, what business do I have not working with him? I am ready to work with all the leaders. In fact, but from my position as deputy president, yes, I must work with every leader.
It's not what you must do, but it is now that you are in more of a collaborative arrangement. Is this something you'd like to take through to 2022 with Raila Odinga?
In terms of?
Working together politically.
We are working together. They have their own party. We have our own party. We are working together to make sure that the agenda of the transforming the country, which cuts across political parties, whether we are rolling out on our big four, whether it is the universal health care, universal health coverage, that is a universal program for the country. Right. Whether it is the industrialization, value addition, agro-processing, the whole manufacturing component, food production, the housing project, which is a fantastic program that will actually do several things for us. It will create the jobs for our young people, and it is actually built, if you can give me 1 minute, to explain the Big Four. The Big Four is a build-up from what we have done the last 5 years. The last 5 years, we enhanced road infrastructure, rail and road.
Yes.
We enhanced electricity. We built 130 technical training colleges. All this infrastructure was the base upon which we are now building the Big Four.
Yeah, you've definitely put a lot of emphasis to the Big Four. You've given it 73.7 billion shillings allocation. This is something serious, clearly from your agenda, and hopefully they won't be destroyed by the graft that has destroyed other pet projects of the Jubilee government. But just to conclude on that part of the political future, is this an olive branch you are extending to Raila and any other perceived enmity or division that was there, that you are now ready to work with him, sit on the same table and chart the way forward for this country?
Mark, surely. That's not a very fair question. Honestly, I mean, where was the enmity between me and
perceived,
any leader?
I use a perceived enmity.
You know, when we made a decision, when Uhuru Kenyatta, the leader of Jubilee, we agreed as a party that we are opening discussions with our competitors, led by Raila Odinga. That was a done deal. You know, it doesn't require approval from William Ruto.
But it has.
It doesn't require concurrence. You know, that is a decision that we have made.
So it has your blessing, your approval, your concurrence.
Absolutely, 100%.
100%.
Even though it doesn't need, even though it's not necessary.
All right.
Once the president has made a decision, and he thought it necessary to have a discussion with me, that is a decision that has been made, and then
you're happy with
we move together.
That they work together. In terms of from your home turf and people that have tried to come up as the big political leaders within the Rift Valley region, there is Gideon Moi. What is your relationship with Gideon Moi like, especially with that visit where you were allegedly blocked from accessing the former president, Daniel Arap Moi, his cabinet home?
Those are private matters. I do not wish to discuss those issues. I think we better discuss...
Just to clarify, what issues? Your relationship with Gideon Moi, or...?
We discuss other more important issues.
Okay.
I don't think those issues are relevant to any discussion in the public.
Both your relationship with Gideon Moi and the visit that was blocked?
Gideon Moi relates to me like all other senators do.
Okay.
We have, I think, 30 senators in Jubilee, and they all work with us. So that is the basis of the relationship.
Okay. If I may, because people are wondering the visit that you were having at that time, besides, of course, wishing him good health.
It was a private visit.
Okay.
And I don't think it is necessary for us to have that discussion.
All right. Besides the fact that, you know, there is now the question of whether you have the full support within the Jubilee Party, if William Ruto is not president in 2022, what can we expect from him?
Wow.
What next?
You know, Mark, I have come very far from where I came from. If today I were to end my career as Deputy President of Kenya, in fact, the first Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, I would thank God. I would be a proud Kenyan.
Okay.
Out of 45 million Kenyans, that me, William Ruto, from the background that I come from, I have gotten this far, I'm happy. I wouldn't complain. I would thank God.
Okay.
He has brought me very, very far.
All right. As we reflect on that, we'll just take a quick break right now and be back to the conclusive part of this interview. Stay with NTV Weekend Edition.
Sitting in the cold.
Welcome back. We are at the residence of the Deputy President, William Ruto. We've attempted to cover issues on graft, issues on political leadership and the future. And yes, as people would say, there's never enough time. And we're in a concluding part of this conversation. And soon, the President and Raila Odinga are set to head to Nyanza for one of those visits that are meant to bring a bridging to the recent relations in the area and in the region. Are you going to accompany them?
Why not? If when finally that happens, I'm sure we will get a brief on how that is going to pan out.
Okay.
And definitely we will have a mechanism of how that is going to happen. And I am confident that we should be able to do that which is important for bringing Kenya together, and everybody must be part of it.
So RSVP in Nyanza for Deputy President when that visit happens. The report, and you will confirm this, from the Registrar of Parties to the effect that there are 2 MPs allied to you that have registered new parties. Are you privy to this information? And given the history of political parties that we have in this country, is this true?
First, you talk about allied.
Yes.
This is something that I would want to respond to.
Yes.
For heaven's sake, everybody has a name. I have seen many newspapers and media houses, Ruto allied MP, Ruto allied MP. Everybody has a name, my friend. What has happened all of a sudden, people don't have names. These are elected people on their own right. I did not vote for them. They speak for themselves. And for the record, I have a mouth. And when the time comes and I need to speak, I will use it. So everybody must speak for themselves. So stories of Ruto allied are just unfair.
Is this
to
report
me.
Figment of imagination?
And I don't think any serious leader today would walk out of Jubilee if they know what they are doing in politics. Registering a party today in Kenya as against Jubilee, it means you are completely lost. You don't know what you're doing. And I don't think any member of parliament has gone to register any political party. And I challenge you or whoever is peddling this information to tell us who it is.
Right. You gave the response earlier about the cancelled meeting, on the parliamentary group meeting for Jubilee, and it seems that things are not all well within your party for this to have been postponed.
First, Jubilee is not built on quicksand. Jubilee is not built on the kind of stuff that people imagine, that Jubilee can have cracks or can be split over issues that are pedestrian. What I tell you, Mark, I had a chat with the president, a normal chat, and we do that very often. Yeah, we do that very often. Sometimes I request him, Mr. President, can we have nyama? We go have nyama, we sit, we discuss many issues. Sometimes they are not even political issues.
So the meeting last week was not in any way to salvage the state in the Jubilee party?
We read that in the papers, and it was really completely reckless that there was a crisis meeting. What crisis meeting? We had
no crisis at all within the Jubilee party?
There is no crisis. In fact, when we had this discussion, our discussion was, how do we create more buy-in especially by the legislature, because we were seeing that the legislature was misunderstanding certain things. Like, for example, the housing fund. The legislature was understanding. They were thinking it is an extra tax, when actually it's a benefit. You know, it is not necessarily an extra tax. It is money you pay so that you get a benefit, and it is tax deductible. You know, if you pay the housing fund, if it is deducted from you, you can actually claim it in reverse from taxes. So we thought, how do we explain this? Initially, there was the proposal of a PG. But then we thought about it again and said, if we went through the route of parliamentary committees, we would have the benefit of not just our members as Jubilee, but also members from the opposition. And that is why we had the first meeting on Friday, where we called the Parliamentary Committee on Transport and Infrastructure, where housing is sitting. And the entire membership of that committee came both from Jubilee and from NASA. You know, that became a better approach.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily that we canceled the PG because I am told there was going to be fireworks, I don't know, there was going to be this, there was going to be that. These are imaginations. Oh. So the reality is, well, we have Jubilee parliamentary group issues which can be discussed further down the road. Right. What is urgent and what the discussion between me and the president was, how do we create bigger buy-in, especially by members of parliament? Initially we thought parliamentary group, but a better idea came and said, maybe so that we don't just limit it to our members, let us bring in the parliamentary committees. Right. And that is now the route that we are going.
So it is a figment of imagination that the handshake, post the handshake, there has been some disagreements within the Jubilee ranks.
How does the handshake...
That's a figment of imagination.
How does the handshake bring in all this? The handshake is about Kenya having an environment for us to implement our party manifesto as Jubilee, right? And that has been agreed
as Jubilee,
across.
But also now with accommodation of Raila Odinga and team, because they've come together after the handshake.
The accommodation in this particular aspect is for us to be able to reach out to the other side with the aspect of bringing down the political temperatures so that government programs can run, government programs that benefits everybody, those who voted for Jubilee and those who voted for NASA. That is basically what it is. And people should not read too much into minor issues. You know, politics being what it is. You know, it's only in church that when you say, let us stand up to sing a hymn, everybody stands up. But in politics, when you say, let's stand up, others sit down intentionally.
Yes.
Because it's politics.
Yes, and you've said this before. But in conclusion, you are ready to work with anyone and you don't expect or hold any grudges if you don't get any support from any bloc within the country moving into 2022?
My friend, I am not entitled to anything from anybody. In fact, it's by God's grace that today I am deputy president. Anybody could have been deputy president.
Iwe team Kieleweke, iwe team Tangatanga.
Whatever, you know. So to pretend that I am entitled to anything would be the biggest fallacy in this whole world, because all the 45 million Kenyans are as qualified to be deputy president or to be elected the next president as I am.
Okay.
So if it happens that Kenyans, in their wisdom, elect William Ruto as president in 2022, I'm telling you, I will serve with the whole of myself. Because when I choose to do something, I don't give it half measures. I do it well.
Allow me to say...
And that is what I have done the entirety of my political career.
Allow me to say this, and you term people, you call this to people a lot. My friend, if you may, look into that camera and speak to the Kenyan and assure them that you could be under oath as giving them the assurity that you have never, in your capacity as a leader in this country, whether as deputy president or otherwise, been involved in any corrupt dealings.
My friends, just the same way you told me. My friends, William Ruto has never, ever been involved in any form of corruption, either as Member of Parliament or today serving as Deputy President. And I give my pledge that I will not.
All right. It is a season of handshakes. Deputy President William Ruto, thank you so much for the time that you've given us. Let me take here a handshake as we take a break on NTV Weekend Edition.
Thank you very much.
Of course, Trevor Mbija will be
Masai,
continuing. Thank
all
you.
the best.
Ashe Oleng.
Ashe Oleng.
Asante.